In the vibrant heart of the early 1960s, a young man from one of America's most powerful families chose a path far removed from Wall Street boardrooms and political offices. This is Michael Rockefeller, laughing amidst the Asmat people of New Guinea, a place where ancient traditions thrived untouched by the modern world. Michael, son of New York Governor Nelson Rockefeller, could have inherited an empire, but instead he pursued a different kind of wealth, cultural understanding, and the collection of indigenous art. His journey into this remote land was driven by a deep, almost spiritual fascination. He was not just an explorer. He was an ethnographer and art collector for his father's newly founded Museum of Primitive Art, dedicated to capturing the essence of cultures before they vanished. But this passion would lead him into a mystery that still haunts us today, a vanishing act so strange and unsettling it defies simple explanation.
Michael's commitment to his work was evident in his very appearance. Here, he is equipped with multiple cameras, a hat offering protection from the relentless equatorial sun, and a determined yet open demeanor. He wasn't simply observing from a distance, he was immersing himself, learning the language, and participating in daily life. His goal was to acquire authentic Asmat artifacts, not through conquest, but through a genuine exchange he hoped would foster mutual respect. He understood that these intricate carvings, drums, and ancestor skulls were not merely objects, but embodiments of a rich spiritual world, a connection to the very soul of the Asmat people. This dedication, however, also put him in proximity to customs and dangers that were utterly alien to his privileged upbringing.
His interactions reveal a man deeply engaged and eager to bridge the cultural divide. Here, Michael demonstrates his camera to an intrigued Asmat man, surrounded by others watching with a mix of curiosity and perhaps a touch of apprehension. He was compiling an extraordinary visual and material record of a culture rarely seen by Western eyes, documenting ceremonies, daily routines, and the intricate artistry of a people whose world was profoundly different from his own. This era was a critical juncture for such encounters, a time when isolated cultures were beginning to experience the encroaching presence of outsiders. Michael, with his Harvard education and anthropological training, sought to document, not to dominate. Yet his very presence carried unforeseen consequences.
To truly grasp the significance of Michael's journey, we must understand the world he left behind. This family portrait showcases the formidable Rockefeller dynasty. That's Nelson Rockefeller, Michael's father, seated prominently, a titan of industry and politics who would later become Vice President of the United States. Michael, standing at the far right, was born into immense wealth and expectation, a world of power and influence. His choice to venture into the untamed wilderness of New Guinea, forsaking a more conventional path, speaks volumes about his independent spirit and his profound fascination with the primitive arts that his family was helping to elevate in the Western art world. It was a stark contrast between two worlds, a contrast that would soon collide with tragic results.
Michael's second expedition in 1961 was far from a solo adventure. This group portrait shows Michael, second from left, alongside other expedition members, including Dutch anthropologist René Wassing, seated next to him. Their mission was ambitious, to collect an even broader array of Asmat art and cultural artifacts. They were operating in incredibly challenging conditions, navigating treacherous rivers and dense mangrove swamps, often relying on local knowledge and assistance. The team faced diseases, dangerous wildlife, and the sheer logistical nightmare of transporting fragile and often large artifacts across vast distances. This undertaking highlights not just Michael's personal drive, but the considerable resources and efforts involved in exploring one of the world's last truly wild frontiers.
Amidst the vibrant culture Michael was so eager to document, there were also ancient customs that held a darker, more complex side, especially when viewed through a Western lens. Here, Asmat women engage in a mourning ritual, their heads covered in woven nets and faces smeared with clay, a profound expression of grief and spiritual belief. The Asmat practiced headhunting and ritual cannibalism, not out of barbarity, but rooted in a complex system of spiritual beliefs, vengeance, and the transfer of ancestral power. Such practices were often linked to cycles of retribution, known as memoria, where the death of one individual demanded a reciprocal act of violence to restore balance. This crucial context, largely unknown or misunderstood by outsiders, lays the groundwork for the chilling theories surrounding Michael Rockefeller's disappearance.
On November 19, 1961, Michael Rockefeller's small, overloaded catamaran capsized in the shark-infested waters off the coast of New Guinea, several miles from shore. His companions stayed with the damaged vessel, but Michael, ever the adventurer, made a fateful decision. He lashed 2 empty jerry cans to his body and announced, "I think I can make it." Then, he plunged into the open ocean, attempting to swim for shore. What happened next remains shrouded in mystery. Soon, the disappearance of a Rockefeller ignited a global sensation. Here, his father, Nelson Rockefeller, is seen at a press conference, his face etched with worry and determination. He immediately mounted one of the largest private search and rescue operations in history, dispatching planes, boats, and a small army of personnel to scour the vast, unforgiving coastline.
The search for Michael was relentless, spanning weeks and drawing international attention. Nelson Rockefeller personally flew to New Guinea, overseeing the operation from a makeshift command center. He leveraged his immense influence to bring every possible resource to bear, from military aircraft to expert divers. Despite these extraordinary efforts, not a trace of Michael or his 2 jerrycans was ever found. The official conclusion was drowning, a fate many found hard to accept given Michael's strength and swimming ability. Nelson's public appearances during this time conveyed both his immense personal grief and his unwavering hope. Yet the vastness of the region and the inherent dangers of the environment seemed to swallow all evidence of his son's fate, leaving behind only speculation. This aerial view captures the formidable landscape that became Michael Rockefeller's last known location. The dense, impenetrable mangrove forests stretch for miles along the coastline, a labyrinth of water, mud, and tangled roots that are almost impossible to navigate on foot. The waters themselves are notoriously treacherous, home to strong currents, saltwater crocodiles, and other marine life. Michael had attempted to swim across this expanse, a journey of approximately 12 miles through a hostile environment. This image underscores the sheer scale of the challenge he faced and the minimal chances of survival against such overwhelming natural forces, even for an experienced and determined individual. Yet the question lingered: did he truly succumb to the ocean, or did he reach the shore, only to encounter a different kind of peril?
Many refused to believe Michael had simply drowned. The persistent and most chilling theory suggests he did reach the shore, only to be killed by the Asmat people. This theory gains particular credence when considering the history of violence in the region. Just 3 years prior, in 1958, a Dutch patrol had killed 5 men from the Ooststeenet village, one of the very villages Michael was visiting and collecting from. The Asmat, deeply rooted in their practice of memoria, would have seen these deaths as an unavenged act, demanding retribution. The arrival of a white man, whether Dutch or American, could have been seen as an opportunity for payback. The blurred figures in this image, while not directly related to the event,
serve as a stark reminder of the close yet potentially dangerous proximity Michael had to these ancient traditions that sometimes involved a violent settling of scores.
Further fueling the killed by Asmat theory are artifacts like this decorated skull. In Asmat culture, headhunting was a ritualistic practice, not just for vengeance, but to acquire the life force and spiritual power of the slain. The skulls of enemies were often cleaned, decorated with shells and seeds, and then revered as powerful objects, sometimes kept as ancestor skulls or trophies. The eyes might be filled with red abrus seeds, and the nasal cavity with boar tusks, adding to their intimidating and sacred presence. It has been widely rumored and even claimed by some journalists after deep investigation that Michael Rockefeller's death was indeed an act of ritualistic vengeance carried out by a specific Asmat tribe, and that his skull may have met a similar fate, becoming a revered, if tragic, artifact.
This intricately decorated skull, with its shell-beaded necklace and red seeds in its eye sockets, stands as a testament to the Asmat's complex spiritual world and their reverence for the human form, even in death. Such artifacts speak to a belief system where the boundary between life and death, and between the physical and spiritual, was fluid. The theory of Michael's demise suggests he was not just killed, but ritually consumed, his flesh eaten, and his bones and skull preserved as part of a ceremony to absorb his power. While definitive proof has never materialized, whisperings and a few direct, albeit unverified, accounts from missionaries and later explorers suggest a confession from Asmat elders recounting how they mistook Michael for one of the Dutch aggressors, fulfilling their spiritual obligation for retribution.
Decades later, the mystery of Michael Rockefeller's disappearance remains one of the 20th century's most enduring enigmas. This Asmat man, navigating the waters in a traditional dugout canoe and carrying a beautifully carved ancestor pole, symbolizes the enduring culture that captivated Michael. Whether he drowned in the unforgiving currents or met a more violent end on shore, his fate underscores the dramatic clash between two vastly different worlds. Michael's quest for cultural understanding ultimately cost him his life, but his work helped preserve the legacy of the Asmat for future generations. His story reminds us that some mysteries are destined to remain unsolved, shrouded by time, distance, and the deep, complex currents of human culture, leaving us to forever wonder about the young man who vanished into the heart of an ancient world.